Hello, welcome. This is the first video of many for this year's 2025 World Darts Championships. I'm going to be previewing every single game in the tournament. I'm going to do it by session. So each video that I'm going to be doing is going to cover all of the games within the different sessions that there are in the tournament. There's 28 in total, and this is number one. And this is going to basically run through all of the games that are happening on Sunday the 15th of December in that evening session at the Alexandra Palace. I'm going to go through each of the games. I'm going to give you my predictions. I think I'm going to go with who I think is going to win, what the scoreline I think is going to be, what type of game do we expect to maybe get potentially as well. I'm going to be talking 180s as well because, look, I love 180s. I think they're the real fun part of every match. But there's an important element to 180s this year as well in the tournament. And it was last year as well. We've got new sponsors. We've got sponsors, Paddy Power, now doing their second year of this year's 2025 World Darts Championship. And like they did last year, they are giving away money to charity for every 180 that's hit. And I believe it's £1,000 for every 180 that's hit in the tournament. So there's always going to be a bit of a talk. Can they get to £1 million? All of that kind of stuff. I'll get into that later. But part of what I'm going to want to preview with you guys is the 180 side of things. How many 180s do we expect to get in each of these matches? I will be predicting all of that. I'll also be looking at who maybe get the most 180s out of all of the players. So those are just a few things to expect in all of my previews that I'm going to be doing across the tournament. So I hope you enjoy that. If there is anything else that you guys want me to cover off, please do comment in the videos. But as I say, the main thing at the moment is focusing on who are going to win these matches, what's the scoreline is going to be, and how many bloody 180s they're going to be in all of them games. And I hope that works for you all. So to kick things off in this session, we're going to see 4 matches on the Sunday evening. We're going to see 3 first round matches, and we're also going to see our first second round match. You may ask, well, why so early? We're going to see a second round match. I will go into that in a moment. But the format for all of these games on the Sunday, it is set play, and it is first to 3 sets. However, to win a set, you've got to win. Basically, it's a race to 3 legs to win a set. So if I go 3-0 up in the first set, I go 1-0 up, and so forth. Basically, I don't know if I really need to explain that any further than that. But if anyone has any trouble knowing or understand it, please comment in the video and I will help you out, no doubt. But yes, anyway, it is set play. It's first to 3 sets. So there's a potential really in these games where you could see anywhere really between sort of 9 legs to maybe even 25 legs in these first matches. It very much depends on how the game goes, how tight of affair it is. Set play is very, very unique. The players in general across the season don't tend to play a lot of set play competitions. It's normally first to X amount of legs or best of legs as well. So yeah, thought we'll just cover that bit off there for you as well. In terms of the games that I will be covering, as I said, there'll be 3 first round games, and then I said there's a second round game to go. Now, why is there a second round game? Well, in the first session, it's always the pair that play first end up playing their second round opponent at the end of the session. And in this case, it is Thibault Tricole versus Joe Comito, and they will play. The winner of that game will play Luke Humphries, yes, the defending world champion, in the last game of the session. So I hope that helps clear a few things up there as well. There's a couple other games that I've got to mention as well in between that. There is a tasty game between Jermaine Wattimena and Stefan Bellmont of Switzerland. And then probably one of the games of the first round potentially between Huybrechts and Keane. 2 very familiar names in the world of darts. They go head to head with one another in the first round. But let's kick things off. So first up that I mentioned was the game between Frenchman Thibault Tricole and the Australian Joe Comito. Now, in terms of Tricole, he broke through last year basically in this tournament. He was a complete unknown Frenchman. In fact, France have never been known to be produced darts players in the past, but he caused a bit of an upset in the first round last year where he won his match against Van den Bogard, which was an upset at the time because he was definitely one of the bookie outsiders to actually win that game. He went on to then play Rob Cross in the second round where Rob Cross done a professional job on him and beat him 3-0. But it was a landmark win for Tricole and French darts. He was the first ever Frenchman to win a game in the PDC World Darts Championships. And he's kind of kicked on quite nicely, I think, this year. He's obviously got his PDC tour card. He's been playing in a lot of events, a lot of floor events throughout the year as well, especially in the Players Championship as well. And he managed to get to the Players Championships finals, and he made a good account of himself there actually as well. He won his first round game against Gerwyn Price. Now, Gerwyn Price had a little bit of a break in the season, I suppose, in terms of he wasn't part of the Grand Slam of Darts, which was a big event just before the Players' Championship finals in Minehead, a week or two after it. But he'd done a job on Gerwyn Price. He won that game. He could have won it more comfortably. He lost his nerve a fraction in the middle and towards the end. I think he was in a game that was first to 6. I think he was 5-1 up, and he stumbled a bit trying to get over the line. I think he ended up winning the game 6-4 in the end. But it was great experience for him, and it gave him his highest TV average to date as well. He got an average of 95 against Gerwyn Price in that game. He then went on to play Jeffrey de Graaf in the second round, and he got beat 6-3 there. But he's getting experience, and he's been playing against top quality opposition throughout the season. As for Joe Comito from Australia, it's kind of a different story, I guess. He's a bit of an unknown to probably many in darts. He's very much based in Australia. He plays his professional darts in Australia. He very, very rarely escapes Australia, I suppose, for playing darts. I don't think there's any records of him playing in Europe or playing in the UK or playing anywhere else in the world. He's very much there in Australia. He seems to have been quite dominant over the last year or two. He managed to qualify for the PDC World Darts Championships for this year back in February, and I saw there was a bit of a news article on TV in Australia for Joe in terms of like the achievement of him qualifying and the excitement around all of that. And it come across to me like, well, this is his big moment. This is kind of like the icing, the pinnacle of his career coming to the Ali Pali stage. So it'll be interesting to see how he deals with that new environment, I suppose, and the travelling over from Australia to the UK. But also, I think on the flip side for Thibault in this case, like in all of the TV games that he's been playing in up to date, like he would have been the underdog, and he probably would be quite a big underdog in a lot of games. In this game, it's the other way around. He is the favourite, and he is the hot favourite to make it to the second round. And I'm going to kind of dive into the stats now, into maybe understanding why that might be the case. So looking at the averages, as I'll be displaying here, Thibault, Tricole, I don't know if it's Tricole or Tricole. Someone could maybe help me with the pronunciation. I think it's Tricole, how you maybe pronounce it. Anyway, his average in the last 12 months has just been a tad over 90.08 to be precise. And as for Comito, I had to look on Darts Oracle to kind of see a bit more information about him. He's apparently been averaging around 83.61 this year. So to get to maybe where Tricole's normal average has been throughout the year, he's going to have to play some of his best darts to kind of match that, you feel, with the averages of 83.61. I did have a look as well to see what performances he might have done on TV, and there was a World Series darts event, I think a couple of years ago. He might have played Michael Smith, I think, potentially. He averaged 75 in that game, so he's obviously going to need to improve a hell of a lot, I think, to maybe get a result against Tricole. And that's kind of my gut feeling with this. Also to look at, I mentioned 180s earlier in the video, that I'm going to be focusing a bit on that. The spread by Paddy Power on this is over 3.5. So they're not sure there's going to be a ton of 180s in this game. And I can kind of see why, because there is a stat I'm going to be using through all of these players throughout the tournament, and it is 180s per leg. And it basically gives me an indicator of how many 180s do we expect, or how many on average does players get a 180 per leg they play? And Tricole and Comito, looking at it, rank somewhere near the bottom in terms of the players that we are going to be witnessing at this year's tournament. Tricole averages a slightly higher one in 0.14 per legs. Comito, he averages 0.11. Now, to put some perspective, they would be playing Luke Humphries. One of them will be playing Luke Humphries in the next round. Luke Humphries obviously is one of the big 180 hitters in the tournament itself. He averages around 0.36 180s per leg. So you can see there's a big jump and class between Luke Humphries and these two in terms of how many 180s they are likely to hit. So, as I say, the line is a bit low. It's 3.5 180s expected. I'll come back to that in a moment, I think, in terms of where I think that will be. So I've given you kind of around what we've got here. Personally, for me, I think Tricole will be the one. He'll be the likely winner in this game, in my opinion. And if we're going by the averages and going by experience and maybe being comfortable playing against better players more regularly, I think Tricole will do the damage here. I was toying between maybe can he get this done in 3-0, or can Comito maybe nick a set? I'm going to say he nicks a set. I'm going to go 3-1 Tricole. I just think he could potentially nick one. As I say, Tricole still kind of feeling himself, I suppose, in the in the world of darts of can he become someone who be known as maybe an elite dart player down the years. But he's still, even though he's had a year and he's got more experience in terms of playing against better players than maybe Comito does, he's still learning, I think. Even at 35 years of age, he's still developing as a player potentially. So I think it'll be, but I do think he'll win. So I'm going to go with 3-1 Tricole. I also think Tricole will pip Comito in the 180s, but I mean, it's going to be tight. You can see the numbers are very close. I wouldn't be surprised if it was they tied on 180s in truth. But if I'm going to give an edge to someone, I've got to give it to the Frenchman. And then as do I think there will be over 3.5 180s in this game? I think if it's going to be 3-1, I think there's a good chance. It's such a low number to kind of hit, I suppose. And I think if Comito does win a set, I think there's a good chance that they could at least get 4, maybe 5 180s in the game. If Tricole runs away and steams away with it, then that's not going to happen. I think it'd be quite a low number. Well, it will be. It's a low number anyway. It'd probably be like 1 or 2 in the end. But that's kind of where I'm going to go with. So just to round up again, Tricole to win 3-1. Tricole to also get the most 180s. And I think we might see 4 or 5 180s in this game if it goes to the scoreline that I'm expecting. Next game up is a game between Jermaine Wattimena and Switzerland's Stefan Bellmont. I'm going to start with Jermaine on this one because I think he's had a fantastic season. It feels like a bit of a breakthrough year for him, believe it or not. He's been around on the circuit for a long time. Everyone's seen him be a talented player. He's got the ability. He's a quick player. He's got rhythm. He can be explosive. But the thing that's always kind of thrown at Jermaine Wattimena is, has he got the bottle to maybe finish off chances? Well, this year, I feel like he has broken through, and I feel like he's been a real feature in the last couple of months in the world of darts. He got to the final of the European Championships where he got beat by another surprise player, I suppose, in Richie Edhouse. He got to the quarterfinals of the Grand Slam of darts. He also got to the last 16 of the Players' Championship final. So he's in good form. He's in really good form. And he's been averaging about 95.01 through the season in comparison to his opponent Bellmont, who's been averaging 88.37, which isn't bad. But Bellmont's been doing a lot more of his darts on the sort of like the floor events, if that makes sense. He hasn't really appeared on the TV events at all, especially in 2024. I think the last time we might have seen Stefan Bellmont was at the World Cup of Darts in 2022 when he was representing Switzerland in that one. So he's not got the experience of the TV events. Obviously, Jermaine has, and Jermaine's been doing really well. And I really struggle to see how Jermaine doesn't win this game, and I think he's got a real great opportunity of doing some damage in this tournament. I think he's a great player. I think he's now in form. I think he now fully believes that he can beat opponents and he can get over the line. I think players like Bellmont shouldn't worry. I don't think they would have worried him too much, even in the days where he probably didn't feel so confident. It's obviously when he goes up against another player that's seeded potentially or higher in the rankings is where maybe things get to him a little bit. But I think Jermaine Wattimena, he's certainly a player that I think is on the cusp of breaking into the world top 32. And I think him to have a good run at this World Darts Championships will give him a great opportunity to break into that. And I think he's good enough at the moment to be a top 32 player. And you never know, it might get even better for him potentially. We've definitely seen some players this year that have broken through. And he's one for me that's, as I said, it's been around for ages, but it feels like a real breakthrough season for him. Anyway, going into more of the stat, I mentioned the averages again. So Wattimena was 95.01, Bellmont 88.37. In terms of 180s, we're going to go into that now. Wattimena's been pretty good there as well. He's averaging 0.25 180s per leg, which is a really decent number. That number's gone up over the years for him. He was definitely a player that was averaging in the teens there. Definitely a player that likes to switch around into the 90s, but he's been a bit more consistent hitting that treble 20 bed. As for Bellmont, he's not too bad. He averages 0.18, but there's obviously a clear, obvious player for me who's going to get the most 180s here. And it, to me, looks like Jermaine Wattimena is primed for it. In terms of the spread as well that Paddy Power have gone for, they are at over 6.5, over and under, 6.5 180s. And I think there's a chance that will go over as well, actually. But let's come into why I think that is. So I think Jermaine's going to win this game. I think you probably gathered by the way I'm talking. I think you all believe that Wattimena is definitely going to be the one to maybe win this game. What does he win it by is the real sort of clear one. Again, I think this is a 3-0, 3-1 type scoreline. I don't think this is a game that's going to go all the way, and I don't really think Bellmont has much of a chance unless Jermaine has an iffy day and Stefan has a day to kind of remember, basically. I just worry about Bellmont's lack of TV experience and being in these big events for me. I think my gut feeling is Jermaine will win this one 3-0. I think he's going to win this 3-0. Now, the 6.5 is going to be tricky because then ultimately I'm now reducing that the fact that the maximum amount of legs that I could get is 15. It could be anywhere between 9 and 15 if I go down the route of 3-0, which means 7 180s in that time is a lot. Yeah, if I go 3-0, I'm going to have to go unders, actually. That's a lot. It's a lot of 180s, and I'm not convinced. I'm not sure about how good Bellmont is in the maximum stake. Oh, it's a tough one. It's a really good. It's a iffy line, isn't it? I think if Bellmont nicks a set, I think it goes over. If Wattimena wins, whitewashes him, I think it goes under. That's the diff. I really think that's the difference. It's a case of, do I think Bellmont can win a set off of Wattimena? I think he's capable, but I'm just not sure if he will on this particular game. So I really, I'm going to say it's not. It's going to go 3-0 Wattimena, and it'll be under 6.5 180s. I think you'll probably see 5, maybe 6, if it's 3-0. If it's 3-1, we might see 7 or 8, and that's kind of where it's going to be the difference, I think, in that one. So that's my prediction there. So just to recap my ramblings there, Wattimena to win. He's going to win by 3-0. I think there's going to be under 6.5 180s. I'll go for the unders on that, and I think Wattimena will be the one that gets the most 180s in the match as well. Next game up is probably one of the more intriguing and tight games of the first round for me. It's a game between Ireland's King Barry and Belgium's Huybrechts. Let's start with Kim. because Kim is obviously going to be the more well-known player out of the two to people probably watching this. I mean, Huybrechts has been around for a long, long time. He is a former quarter-finalist of the World Championship, but that was back in 2012, and that's actually his first appearance at the PDC World Darts Championship, and it was his best ever result, and he's never been able to match it since. But he has been an ever-present in the World Darts Championships for the PDC. He's obviously slipped out of the top 32 now, so he's now, I think he's in the order of merit, he's around about 40th. He struggled a little bit to get back into that top 32. He's not had a season where he's done anything of note. He's not won any tournaments. I think he's got to the odd maybe final or semi-final in the Players' Championships on the floor through the season. But yeah, look, we know what Kim's all about. If he turns up, he's a fantastic player, but them days seem to be not as frequent as they once were. And he's got an opponent in King Barry, who's probably another player that you might have expected a little bit more. He broke through on the PDC World Darts Championship scene a few years ago. I think it might have been about 4 or 5 years ago potentially, actually. It's been a while. He still feels like a really young kid. But yeah, he's another player that I think, well, should we have seen more from him? Should he have developed? He's currently 55th in the order of merit at the moment as well. But he's had a few wins. He's about 3 development tour wins in 2024. So that should give him a bit of confidence that he knows he can win competitions at least. And I think both players in this one will look at this as a real opportunity to maybe get a win. Now, granted, they could have asked for maybe an easier game, but they're very well matched in the averages. Barry averages 90.16 over the last 12 months, and Huybrechts just tips it slightly with 91.20. So they're pretty close. It's very evenly matched in terms of in terms of their season averages on the PDC in the last 12 months. As for 180s per leg, there's not a lot of difference there. King Barry's at 0.18, 180s per leg. Huybrechts a little bit higher again, 0.21. So you can kind of see Huybrechts is just edging it slightly on averages and slightly on 180s. And he is obviously the slight favourite to win this game. But I think it's a flip a coin kind of game. I think this is a very evenly matched game. And for me, I suppose it all depends on what Kim Huybrechts turns up. I think if a really good Kim Huybrechts turns up, he blows King Barry out of the window, basically. But I don't know if we're going to see that. I think this is going to be a very tight affair. And I actually think this is going to be one of them games where I wouldn't be surprised if this goes all the way. I think this could be 5 sets. I definitely think it will be at least 4 sets in this game. But I can see it being 5 sets. I can see this being very nip and tuck. I can see this game having moments of brilliance where the players are playing unbelievable stuff, and I can definitely see both players having moments where it seems like an absolute struggle up there as well. So it's going to be a very, very intriguing game. And for me, it's one of the top 5 games to watch in the first round, in my opinion, as well. So as for all of that, it's also worth mentioning what's the spread line for 180s in this. The spread line's over 6.5. I'm quite confident that will go over. I think we could see 8 plus, 9 plus, 10 plus. I think we can see near double figures for this. Just because I think this game is going to go a long way. Even if it goes 4 sets, right? I don't think anyone's going to be blowing anyone out of the water in them sets either. So I think we're still going to get 4 or 5 legs in each of them. Even if you've got the minimum of 4, right? You're talking 4, 8, 12, that's 16 legs of darts. It's probably not going to be. I think it's going to be easily a minimum of 20 legs of darts in this game. So there's loads of opportunities for 180s for both these players. As I said, they're not necessarily the most prolific 180 hitters, but they're capable players. Kim Huybrechts certainly is as well. And I'd probably edge him actually to maybe get the most 180s in this one. So I'll say that now. I think Huybrechts will get the most 180s, and the over 6.5, I think it will definitely go over, because I just think this will be a long game. It's as simple as that. I think it will be a long enough game that they will clear that that amount, and I think that we'll see plenty of 180 opportunities in the match. In terms of who I think is going to win, though, I thought this is I thought this really hard. I think what's interesting is the potential opponent for both of these players. The winner gets to play Gerwyn Price, and I just had in the back of my mind thinking, I think it'd be quite fun to watch Gerwyn Price versus Kim Huybrechts. I think that'll be such a feisty game. Kim is not shy of giving it a bit. We know Gerwyn Price definitely isn't. It could get really tasty. So I'm kind of hoping we get that game. Whereas King Barry, he's a different kind of personality, and he's not someone who's going to be giving it the full beans to his opponents. But I'm going to edge it to Huybrechts. I think this one. I think Kim potentially gets the win, but I wouldn't be surprised if King Barry wins. I think this is a real tight one to call. But if you're going to nail me down to a prediction, I'm going to say Huybrechts wins a bit of a first round classic 3-2. I think he'll probably win the 180 battle. And because of the amount of legs in the game and the amount of sets, I think over 6.5 180s will happen in this one. There we go. And the last game of the session is what I mentioned earlier. It is the second round game between Luke Humphries and the winner of Thibault Tricole and Joe Comito. I can't. Well, no, sorry, I can't do anything actually. Let's just talk it through. Let's talk it through properly. I think Luke Humphries, and if you watch my video that I did about who I think is going to likely win the quarters and get to the semis and win and all of that kind of stuff, right? I think Luke Humphries has got one of the best draws he could possibly get, I think, in this year's tournament. Because what I think you find in the World Darts Championship, I think there's so much depth now in terms of there's so many quality players in the first round. But in terms of players that can actually win it, in my opinion, there isn't as many, I don't think. That's me personally in this one. And I think Luke's got a lovely draw here. I think he couldn't have asked for two potential opponents. I think Tricole's a good player, but I just don't think he's got the experience or the capability to beat Luke Humphries in this later game. And if it's Joe Comito, which I don't think it will be, but if it is, I don't think it's going to be... Luke's going to do a job on both of them, regardless of who goes through, in my opinion. I think it's that simple. And I'll cut straight to the point with it as well. Like, I think this is going to be a 3-0 job, whoever he plays. Luke's averaging 98 this year, which is incredible. And we know that's throughout the whole season. We know when he really plays even half decent, he's over 100 quite easy. And I just don't think either of these players can get anywhere near that level in a format like this where it's first to 3 sets. I just think Luke's going to win this, and I'm going to win it comfortably. And he will certainly get more 180s than the other two opponents. As I mentioned earlier, he's 180 per leg. Stats is 0.34. I think I might have said a bit higher earlier in the video. I can't remember what I said now, but even so, 0.34. That's a high number. That's one of the best in the PDC as it stands. There's not too many that have got better 180s per leg average than that. So he'll definitely win the 180 battle as well, you think. The question is, can either of these opponents nick some legs off of Luke Humphries? And I think it'll be quite a challenge, actually. I would not be surprised one bit if he wins this 3-0 and he wins all of the sets 3-0. I think at the very best, these players might nick one off. Well, Tricole, I think, who's going to be the one who plays, he might be able to nick an odd leg or two. But I think Luke's going to be pretty dominant. And for me, that plays into, will we see enough 180s in this game? Obviously, I don't have a line over and underline for this game because we don't know who the actual match is going to be. My guess will be that if Paddy Power or anyone puts one up, I would say they will, because it's Luke Humphries, I think they will look at 6.5, 7.5. I think 7.5 is where they might go. If that's the case, it's going to be unders. As good as a 180 hitter Luke Humphries is, I don't think there'll be enough legs, and I just don't know if their opponent will. I don't think any of his opponents will probably contribute much to that at all. So I'd go, as a guess, I would say it's going to be around 7.5, and I think it'll be unders. So just to recap my Luke Humphries, just to recap the Luke Humphries game, I think he wins 3-0. I think he wins it with not a lot of fuss, whoever he plays. He will hit the most 180s, but depending on what the line is, I think it could be unders just on the base. I think he's just going to get the job done really, really simply here. And I think for me, I still think he's the man to beat in this tournament. I really, really do. Lot of people will say it's Luke Littler. I think it's Luke Humphries. I think this is a guy that he's pretty special, and he's very gritty, and he's someone who knows how to get the best or beat the likes of Luke Littler in this one. But guys, let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed that video. I enjoyed obviously recording it and talking to you guys about all of the matches. Please keep a lookout for all of my other previews. As I said, there's going to be 28 sessions of darts this tournament, and I'm going to be covering every single one of them. So please look out for the days ahead as well. You should see them all on my channel. And also, to really help me out, please subscribe to this channel. Getting excited there, wasn't I? Don't know what I dropped there. But anyway, please subscribe to the video, and I'll fix whatever I've dropped down there basically. But guys, enjoy. I'll speak to you soon.